It's a short version of both of theirs. Like, I'll say what somebody said to me one time. Just Google me. It's like Google these two. They literally. We have a neuroscientist to my right, a psychiatrist here, and those terms are minimalistic relative to the work in which they do and how they contribute to society and the way in which they do it. Oftentimes, when you're walking into the potential of having surgery or you're dealing with a mental health crisis, you almost feel like you need a translator to understand what's actually happening. But the two of them approach their practice with such care and such love and such commitment to the betterment of society. It's an honor to sit between the two of you. I think that's worth some applause for both of you. What we wanted to do, just in the context of this, is actually frame this work in the context of the medical expertise that you both bring to the table. And there's a lot of hype about longevity, but I'm just curious as we start, what does longevity mean to you? Dr. Williamson.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can't believe I even have to speak after hearing the stories told in such a beautiful way. So it's really an honor to be up here, and congratulations to your whole team because it's incredible. I feel lucky that when I talk and listen to patients, like I get to hear stories like that all the time. And it's what longevity means to me is quality. I think what you saw there is you saw people gardening, you saw people active, you saw people going for walks. And I think, I hear sometimes for patients like, well, why would I have surgery? And let's say they're 74, how much time do I really have left? And I'll say things like, well, there's somebody that's 115. They say the first person that's going to be 150 is alive. And if you're going to spend from 70 to 150 sitting down, not able to walk around, not able to enjoy your grandchildren, that to me is not meaningful longevity. And so I think what you represented there is a really accurate take of how I approach it with my patients.
So, and everyone can hear me. That's not me. So I think, one, thank you for allowing us to be here. And thank you, Dion, for creating the film. I think in reference to the idea of what it is to have a long life. So I work with young people anywhere from 5 years old all the way on up into adulthood. And thinking about, you referenced the life expectancy gap between Dorchester and Back Bay. I engage with young people who might be 5, who might be 10, who have really sometimes negative thoughts and may want to truncate their life early. And so the idea of being able to have kids, be able to be with your friends, be able to be in a space like this, and just honestly, just be present. I think we take for granted how often just sitting, and I think one of the couples noted sometimes they just spend time together quiet. And how often, even today, just now, something's always ringing, something's always buzzing, something's always telling us to keep doing the next thing. And sometimes I've worked with patients and I say, well, we're just actually gonna just be here right now. And I might be quiet. And they're like, why aren't you doing something? I was like, oh, actually the quiet is the thing that we're doing. And I think when I think about longevity, in terms of when I've treated older patients, it's very common. You get the mail person or the postman who's been on the same route, and they haven't planned for what life looks like after they retire. And it's very common for individuals to hit the 65 or hit the 70-year-old age range where they've lost their partner, and immediately there's a drastic decline. The routine, the structure is lost. and you don't understand how valuable it is to say hello to that person that you walk by every day and you get that coffee from, and the security guard that you're saying hi to. Those things actually matter. And when we lose those things, it's when longevity all of a sudden becomes short. So for me, I think longevity is what you saw here, being peaceful, quiet. Each one of them engaged in some kind of activity, whether that was gardening, yoga, music. It's not surprising that the men that were there that are living a long life are married. Men who are married live longer than those who are single. And those men that you saw also engage in creative activities. So I think the film does a very good job of representing what it is that longevity could maximally be.
Fantastic. We hit on the theme of community. And maybe if you could touch on the importance of community, which I think is highly underrepresented in many people's thought process. And this, people are talking about VO2 max and so forth, but community is not one that tends to come up on TikTok.
Yeah, one of the patients that I'm most afraid of is the married man without his wife in a visit, right? Like, I'm just like, let's reschedule. It's not worth it.
She's so right, because honestly, if I go to an appointment, say, how are you doing? I'm like, hold on, let me call Brittany. So you're very accurate.
Well trained. But I think community is such a huge part of the decisions we make in our health. And it's so crucial. If you're signing up for surgery, right? My part is easy. You're going to be under anesthesia. I'll do the surgery. I send you home. And then what, right? So who is there, and who is able to take care of you? We give instructions like you can't lift anything heavier than 5 pounds, milk jug, okay? You live alone. Which level of your apartment building do you live on, et cetera. And one of the studies that we did, we actually looked at around 20,000 patients from the Mass General Brigham system, 20,000 unique encounters. And we saw that our Black and brown patients reported worse symptoms, more pain from spinal disease, more physical dysfunction, but they were less likely to have surgery and they had worse outcomes. And so we went further and we asked why. Like, why wouldn't you have surgery? We can do things smaller, we can do things easier, we can send you home the same day. We interviewed folks, and one of the biggest things that came as a consistent theme was, I don't want to be a burden to the people around me. And I think that really falls short of what we're seeing here, of the importance of community. And so one of the things I try to do as a provider is like, call your grandchild. They probably really do want to be involved, right? This intergenerational piece is so critical. And I think we let people be alone when they're so surrounded by potential community.
Yeah, so I'd echo everything that you just said. There's a great book, Being Mortal, which talks about the end of life and how culturally certain cultures embrace the idea of bringing in the grandmother or the grandfather. My own grandmother, who passed when she was 98, her last probably decade, maybe 15 years, we moved her from where she was and we reconfigured our living room and it became mama's room, right? And that's something that you tend not to see a lot in Western culture, where it's like, oh, there's a nursing home, not to shade any person who has someone in a nursing home. But truthfully, I think our kids, so what would be her great grandkids, gave her energy, and also gave them calm. Cause it's like, man, go to mama. And so, I think it is something that when I'm engaging with young people, I often ask, not just, are you sad, or how's your attention? But I want to hear about the social dynamic. So tell me about your friends. Because honestly, if you can tell me about the 5 people that you most spend time with, you're going to give me a mirror of whom you are. And so I don't have to ask you, hey, tell me about yourself, but how would your friend describe you? How do you describe your friend? And that community aspect, we tend to see kind of dissolving more and so because, yes, social media and things. But I remember I had good friends who certainly engaged in things that I would not have engaged in. And they're like, no, Kev, don't do that. And it was partly them understanding who my family was and them speaking on behalf of my family, like, yeah, Kev, don't do that. Y'all don't want Kevin's mom to come here, right? And it was also me reflecting and hearing, oh, don't do that, right? And so, that idea of having people, and I don't have brothers, I do have two older sisters, but the people that I played basketball with were my brothers, and certainly kept me on a path. They're like, yeah, we don't want Mrs. Simon to come and rough her up. So I think, but that is community, right? And so when I talk with young people and I hear, semi-controversial here. So I engage a lot of young people who are involved in juvenile justice or Department of Youth Services here, right? And so that's individuals that have engaged in some kind of behavior that society deems as like not appropriate. One of the things I think is actually beautiful when we think about young people that have street affiliations, I think our educational system, our clinicians could learn so much from how individuals who engage with street affiliations are behaving among each other. They don't get kicked out. They get consistent positive reinforcement for, hey, you did this for me, I'm gonna watch your back. I get a lot of letters, he's kicked out of a class, or they wanna have a medical leave from the university. And certain communities exist where it's like, no, you are with me. And so we could learn, potentially, if we looked at the behavior of what the affiliation is, rather than just saying, oh, this is just a bad thing. Something good is happening within it, because they'll say, we don't see you, doc. I don't see you on the block, which is true. I'm here. And yet, there's so much potential that could be gained if we tapped into community resources. And yet I think we leave so much to be had by not thinking that there's potential there. So I echo what she said.
No, and you hit on so many important points, including one. I mean, there's a book coming out March 31st called Friends of the Good. And the author says, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Damon Martin. So just real quick, a couple things. One, you're actually doing a study with the film Black Longevity that engages with patients before they go into surgery. So I just, if you could just tell the crowd a little bit about that, I'd love.
Yeah, my research is all about how patients' perspectives of their health affects their treatment decisions. So what we believe, who we talk to, what our doctor says, and it's just a reflection of my own experience and my own family's experience in watching this like huge rift between the healthcare system and my personal and family experience. And, one of the things that has come out of this research is a clear understanding that how we feel about our health, how we feel about the possibilities or benefits of treatment directly relates to the decisions we'll make and the actual outcome we'll have, right? Is it a positive outcome? Do we end up leaving the hospital more quickly? Do we actually have less pain? Like these things are all affected by what we believe. And so I think I was about to say my hypothesis is, but I promised you I wouldn't be nerdy, so I'm going to stop right there. But I think that, what is so cool about the film is that it's trying to help people reimagine how they feel about their health. So we're asking and having people watch the film and seeing if it happens, right? Do they actually have better outcomes? And do they report that they feel more positive about, yeah, maybe it is worth having that surgery at 74 because I'm going to live to 115.
That's really beautiful. So let's wrap up with this. I think that there were some really great things that came from this film, extraordinarily done by the incredible folks that you saw up here earlier. Is there anything that you take away from the film that we should be either implementing in our daily lives or the healthcare systems that you engage with should be implementing?
So I'll go so that way the woman has the last word. I think in reference to something that was stated in the film is that you should have like a purpose, or you should have your why. And I think that that is critically important in terms of how we all could leave here, whether that's making sure that I do go to church on Sunday, or that I do make it to inquiring and calling the friend that you haven't called before, and making sure that those relationships are strong. There are small things that we can do that can make a meaningful difference to how we feel as well as how someone else feels. When I call my friends, and I actually call, I don't just text, they're like, Kev, dang, you beat me again. I'm like, well, you could call, but I'm gonna call you. Those are things that do make people feel good. Writing a note, actually physically writing a note, you'd be surprised. And so the notion of what can the mind do? And so looking at the film, right, we have this idea of placebo. There is something called nocebo. I got to make sure that I mitigate your negative thinking about what's going to happen. And so if this film can really demonstrate that, that's powerful, right? Because the idea of, hey, could you watch this? Honestly, I kind of want to be an author on this manuscript, but but
You're already on.
that is truly powerful, because one of the things that we don't have enough of is people who happen to look like us in the room as the physician. And so what else could we do to proxy that? Give a film that can show people who look like you living that long life, because it's going to be potentially challenging for someone who's not like you to describe why you should want to live a long life. And so I think that's something that's very powerful from this film.
Nocebo, that's dope.
I love that. I would say a thing from the film that I hope healthcare providers would take away is to raise your expectations and to be curious. I'll I'll tell a story about a patient that I saw recently in clinic, and he came in and he's talking. He has a pretty thick accent, and I asked where he's from, and he's from Jamaica, and my grandfather's Jamaican, so I'm like, Jamaican for the real Jamaicans out here. But I'm like, I can usually understand when someone from Jamaica is speaking, and I'm like, he's like really slurring his words, I think. And this guy had been in and out of the hospital like 2 or 3 times trying to get a diagnosis for weakness. And they sent him to me because I'm a spine surgeon. And they said, is he weak because of his spine? And I'm like, the spine doesn't make you slur your words. That's your like anatomy 101. It's above. And so, I said to his son, I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but is that his accent or is he slurring his words? And he's like, no, he's slurring his words. And it turns out, unfortunately, that this gentleman had a diagnosis of ALS. And it had been missed for months because nobody took the time to say, this is probably a really, smart, really articulate gentleman who now can't communicate. And something's abnormal about that because the normal was higher than I expected. And I think that the expectations and curiosity is something I would take away in all of our interactions, but particularly for healthcare providers.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we close, I'd love for you all to just humor me for a moment. Can you close your eyes? What I'd love for you to do right now is to ask yourself the question, who wins if you live a longer, healthier, more joyful life? Who wins? I'd love for you to answer that question. Now open your eyes. In order for the things that you see to change, you have to change the way that you see things. And, on this journey, the Wellwithal has, like, this is not just a brand, it's a movement. Like, and you join that movement, certainly when you buy our products, we've got a great energy drink, it's all natural, fantastic. And some great supplements and more things to come. And 20% of the profits of those things go to impact health equity. So like that's an act of the movement. But you're also part of the movement when you show up in the middle of the snow and no parking and you come and pack a room like this to engage in this credible experience. But the other way that you're part of this movement with Wellwithal is when you actually take those small steps to take care of yourself. Because we need you around. The people that you saw in your head that win when you're healthy, they need you around. And so just remember to take those small steps. Go to the doctor. If you need to, talk to somebody like these folks. Take those small steps that create longevity so that we can have a better society. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Really, thank you.